And I promised myself I wasn't going to buy any more cars for a while. And that lasted all of about 3 weeks after I paid off my truck. Oh well. Well, let's dig into it, huh? We gotta get this thing unloaded from the trailer. Picked this up yesterday in southern Wisconsin. It's an 85.5 SVO. I've had one of these before. It's my first time having one that's not a rot box. Floor pans are beautiful. Unbelievable. So these, those of you that don't know, these things are 2.3 liter turbocharged, fuel injected. They're made from 84 till 86. I think there's just under 10,000 of these made. I've had 2 of them. It's kind of crazy. Like I said, I picked this up because I've been wanting one for a while. Probably taking the power tour this year. We'll see. Going back to the inside again, driver's side. Cool. We got the Bluetooth window switches there and lock switch. Oh, got up on that trailer there. Looks like she's got AC. I think that was standard. I think you have to order it without AC if you wanted it. More like, I guess, a track prep package or something. 5-speed manual, of course. T5 World Class trans. Fog lamps, and oh yeah, it's got the fuel grade switch. That's pretty badass. How many miles we got? 6,253. By the looks of the interior and the underside, I'd say it's probably 106,000. I don't think it's got 206,000. Again, back seats are pretty clean. A couple of oopsies going on there. God, they brush painted everything. That part's kind of annoying, but that's okay. That's okay. How's the bottom side? I like that they got dual exhaust, kind of. There's a wide pipe that goes into one, because obviously, being a 4-cylinder, it's only got one bank anyway, so it can't be a true dual. Man, she's clean. And factory Marshall fog lamps. I don't know if it's got the covers on that. I guess when we unpack a little more inside, we'll find out. Hello there, everybody. It's I think it's time to finally get working on this old girl. She's just been sitting, rotting away. I mean, in the garage, but got to put the new trans cross member in because the one rotted out by the bushings. Steering shaft, rag joint's gone. Stuff like that. Usual, got to grab from the stack of batteries. Some are good, some aren't. Some work just enough. I like to keep the battery in vehicles if they're in the garage, if they're going to sit for a while. I don't know what it is. I don't trust older car electronics not to start on fire. It might be conspiracy theorist or just overthinking things. But this car is almost 40 years old, so you can't really leave anything up to chance. Yeah, that'll pass NASCAR inspection. Anyways, these have, as stated earlier in the video, these have a 2.3 liter Lima, I believe, single overhead cam, turbocharged, intercooled little 4-cylinder, which is very odd for a Mustang. It's quite the underdog in all reality. A lot of people didn't like these cars just because they were very European inspired. And, you know, back at the time, it was big engines. Back in the 80s, you know, we had the gas crisis of the 70s into the early 80s. So it was all about pushing fuel efficiency, which killed the American muscle car for quite some time. So, you know, Ford's response was to come out with the Fox platform, which is very light. And, yes, very mass-produced, kind of a cheap car, but it offered kind of the performance you wanted because it was so small with a decent-sized engine in it. I wouldn't say big, because it's only a 5-liter or 302, but it's big for the size of the car. I mean, it's not a large vehicle. So to keep up with the German cars, European imports specifically, BMW, you know, 3 Series and whatnot, and Mercedes and Audi, they decided to go with something a little more European inspired, hence the Aero headlights. turbocharging, which was not very common on American cars at the time. It was more of a foreign thing. They upfitted these with 16-inch alloy rims. This other rare thing about the SVO is they've got the 5-lug setup, which you don't really see in any of the Mustangs. There might be one, I don't remember if the Celine had it or the McLaren. You guys will have to correct me in the comments on that. But for the most part, 99% of the Mustangs you're going to see, Fox bodies, are going to be 4-lug. These were retrofitted with 4-wheel disc brakes, also a Mustang first. The front brakes, I believe, are from a Lincoln Mark 7, I believe. So the lower control arms. So they're very difficult to get parts for, I'll tell you that much. I know the calipers are a pain in the butt to find parts for. They had a Tremec T5 transmission with a Hurst shifter. They had, a little special steering wheel, leather wrapped, but they had the little SVO. It's hard to see it there. There you go, SVO on the steering wheel. I think most of them came factory with AC and some luxury things like that. I think the main options, luxury options, were leather and sunroof, which I don't have either one of those. You could get a stripped model, I think, called like the Comprep package, which had no AC, a few other things on it to kind of save weight. I think no radio as well. But also unique to only the SVO was the biplane dual spoiler, which a lot of people hate on. I don't know, I like it. I think if you put the 12-vent louver in the back, like you'd find in the early 80s on these, I think they look really cool. I mean, at least in 80s terms. Also, the taillights, specific to this, and I believe the Mustang Cobras in the early 90s as well, were the only ones that ran these taillights that have the black lines in them. So, I'll slide underneath the car. We get to the trans cross members. That one looks pretty rough, but let's take a look at the other side of it. Like I said, forgive me, I did not have a lift. That side is gone. Holy cow. Yeah, I was afraid to even drive the car. I was afraid it was going to drop the trans out the bottom of the car. Yeesh. So, first on the agenda is to replace that cross member. So, let's get cracking. Well, got the trans supported with jack. We'll see how she... Ooh! She's lost a little bit of structural integrity. Very thin in the middle there. Oof. Well, Midwest will do that to you. Got the hanger there. Oh, that worked. Holy cow. Alright, let's see if we can get this thing back together or not. Ugh. Get you all set up there. Takes a lot more time to have to go back and forth around, so I'm not blocking the camera while filming, but like I said, it's keeping me motivated. So got the one side in, spray a little lube-a-doob. There's schmutz. For those of you that speak Yiddish. Plus, it's a corrosion preventative. I didn't go to college. Can you tell? And here's the finished product. Not all rotted out anymore. I mean, there's a little rust hole there, so we're gonna have to do something eventually, but right now, at least I don't have to worry about losing the engine trans out the bottom. While I was down here, I noticed something pretty cool. If you look at here, look at that. So on each side, they've got these little struts, like little dampeners for the engine mount to help with, I mean, is it vibration or keep the engine from torquing too much, or I don't know. I've never seen that before. It's kind of cool. So up next, if you can see, right down there. Oh, come on, focus, camera. That's the steering shaft coupler where there should be a rag joint in there. Well, it's not there. As you'll see, should have one of these in there. I say go to the Dorman one because it does have the fiber in it versus like that phenolic plastic-ish one. Suppose these are pretty good. So, right there you are. And here, you can see the steering shaft. Now, if I can wiggle it a little bit here, let's see if I can get to that. See, that's what I got going on. So what they do is they build these little gates here and here. So in case the steering coupler disappears like this one did, you still have another means of mechanical linkage. But that gives you an insane amount of play, the steering wheel, before you actually start turning the gearbox. So that's what we're going to replace today. So it looks like that is riveted right here to the back side, and there's a bolt here, bolt there. So I've got to get this out so I can drill out those rivets. That's kind of dumb. I might just take out the whole section of shaft there and put it on the bench. So here's our steering shaft. Here's our little limiting cage or mechanical redundancy, I guess you could call it, to try to sound fancy. Got our riveted ends there. Well, after a lot of drilling and cutting, we got the rivets out. Got our new rag joint on with our new guide pins. Had to drill out those holes. I've heard about them saying that you got to drill out those holes so you can fit these factory bolts to go through the 1/2-inch drill bit. It's not a 1/2-inch hole because the rubber flexes back kind of after you're done drilling it, but it's just tight enough. I like the nice snug fit. So, all right, here we are. We got the new rubber in, new guide pins. I think this will work well. At least I hope so. A few days later, I work a full-time job, so I don't get to work on this consecutively every day. But anyways, I already got some of the brake system taken off of the car. I already pulled the rotors off and the bearings, took a look at the bearings. They were definitely adjusted way too tight, and they're, where's the one? You can see by that dark color, they should be a little more silver than that. They're quite dark, so these have gotten pretty hot. See, they should look more like that, a lighter silver color, and they definitely are not. So I decided to buy some bearings and races, but I looked and the rotors are blued from the brakes, or the original brakes sticking. Whenever you hit the brakes, they would drag. So I decided, well, for $55 a piece, I bought new rotors and new, well, it comes with the hub and everything on these. Those should be in tomorrow. While I was at it, I decided, hey, let's throw some calipers in. They're like $33. Brake lines were cheap enough, and they're actually the culprit anyways, because when you hit the brakes and they wouldn't release, if you cracked the bleeder loose on the caliper, it'd give a little squirt and release. So pretty sure my culprit's these brake hoses, and as you can tell by looking at them, come on, focus camera. No? Well, you can see there's a chunk of material missing there. It's quite dry rotted and stiff. So for $13, let's make sure that we have safe travels for the power tour next month. At this point, I've got my new brake line on, my new caliper on. I just got it mocked up here so that I had my clocking for my brake hose, because the bracket that it sits into back here, let me get the light on there, actually is a 12 point, so you can clock it in small degradations to make sure that your arch and your angle is all correct. So I decided to mount the caliper so I could dynamically set it and get my brake line tightened back there. Luckily, my line came off, the line nut came off with that little trick I used to heat it and let it cool, and heat it, let it cool, and work it back and forth. After about 5 minutes, she broke right loose. So I was pretty pleased about that. So while we're in here, we're going to check the lower ball joint, outer tie rod end, inner tie rod end at the rack. You know, just do a quick little overview. We got our rotors finally, right there. These are combination hub rotor assemblies. I got the studs, the bearing races already installed. It's like $55 a piece, not too bad. A lot of older cars do it this way. You don't really see this much anymore. Usually they're hub assemblies, unit bearing. I kind of like these overall because, well, they last a very long time. The only reason why these ones went out was because they were over tightened. Got my nicely freshly painted backing plates. If you don't already have one, I highly recommend getting one of these bearing packers. These things are amazing. Instead of sitting there for an hour and a half, taking the bearings by hand and getting the grease out of them, you take yourself a tub of grease, slap it inside, put your bearing right down in there like so. You just give her a gentle push. If you watch, it forces the grease right through it. There we go. I always go a little bit extra. Pop it off. You take it off and you get all gooped up. Now you have a nicely packed bearing. Definitely a time saver. They're like 20 bucks at the auto parts store. You can't beat them. I'm just gonna snug it for the moment because I've got to be going home soon. This is at my mom's place. Spin her forward. You want to spin it forward so that you're not just dragging those rollers across the race and cause scoring. This kind of helps walk it on nicely without causing any damage to the bearing or the race on your initial preload. I'm just going to snug it. Just probably 10 foot-pounds. Just leave it for right now until I get what that actual spec is. Time to finally finish up the front brakes on the Mustang. Got to finish my final wheel bearing adjustment, cotter pins, put the dust caps on, those guys. Brake pads, calipers, that kind of thing. So I'm going to just get those on. I'm not going to bore you with the details on that. And then we'll continue on once we have the front end done and we get to putting the rear brake lines on. We got the front done. Looking all nice and pretty. I still got to bleed everything, of course, since I've got the rear apart. But I'll probably, once I get the rear brakes put on, we'll open all the bleeders and just let it gravity bleed for a while I do other things. Such a hard life. All right, so we got the rear brakes apart. At least I got this side completely apart. Parking brake cable is trash, which is typical for these. I'm not so concerned about that at the moment. But my problem is they are boots that are in here. Well, you can see part of that one. It should look like this guy over here. Yeah, see, it goes through and your pin slides through that on the back side. But you can't get these at most auto parts stores. They're unavailable. Luckily, Late Model Restoration has them for like 13 bucks. So I bought 2 sets in case they ever discontinue them. While I'm at it, I think I'm going to have the rotors machined. I have new rotors up front. There's plenty of meat left on these. I mean, there are specs there, minimum thickness. 22.75 millimeters, so I'll mic that out to make sure we got enough we can take off and still be safe. These are pretty rusty from sitting, so I'd like to machine them down. 15 bucks a piece where I take them, so versus paying 65 bucks a piece for the rotors, it's worth the shot. Put new brake lines back here as well, for brake hoses. Old ones look pretty decent, but I already have them. I'm in it this far. They're cheap enough, just why not? The steel lines are plenty clean still. They're now all rotted out. The nuts came loose, so. Well, first things first, let's get some of the crusties off the back of this mounting bracket for the disc brake backing plate. I guess we'll go from there. All right, so there's been a change of plans. As I was chiseling away there, I noticed that seal's not looking too hot. So I'm gonna have to pull the diff cover and pull the axle shafts out so that I can replace the seals and bearings. I might as well do that while I'm in here. You get 1 step in and 2 steps back. Oh well. All right, so I've never had an SVO rear axle part before. This is a 7.5 inch, but I'm assuming it's a C-clip axle. So let's pop the cover off and take a look, see what we're working with. It's definitely traction lock rear end. So if you see here, it's got, I think, what Ford calls traction lock or limited slip. There's these clutches in here so that when you get a certain number of revolutions out of one tire doing like one wheeler peeler, it actually transfers power to both axles so that you can grip better. So there we are. So I've got to pull this shaft out right here. Let me angle you up a little bit. You gotta pull this shaft out right here. So there's a bolt here, a lock bolt, and you pop it out, and I should be able to push the axle shafts in and drop the C-clips out. Everything looks pretty darn good back here. All right, let's see if we can get this bad boy out of there. Oh, so just enough to get the C-clip out, huh? Well, that's a design I can't say I've seen before. Wow. Interesting. So what it appears is that you take this pin down just enough, and you can get in there, if you can see. Oh man, that would be difficult to see in there. There's a clip, there's a pin right there. Oh, come on, focus camera. Right there. That's your C-clip on your axle shaft. So if you pull the axle shaft out, see, this clip disappears. Push it in, you should be able to get the clip out. We're gonna screw with it a little bit and see if we can't get that clip out. Yeah. Oh, well, there it went. Interesting, I'm used to be able to pull that pinion shaft all the way out, but it actually hits the ring gear. So there's a flat spot on it. You rotate that flat spot and it can slide out just enough to where you can get the C-clip out. I've never seen that, but I've never had a 7.5 inch round apart before. Well, you learn something new every day. So now I should be able to push on the axle shaft and pull her out. Alrighty. So now I should be able to. Yep, see, right there. That C-clip pops right on there, like so. Whoop. What is it? Oh, there's an O-ring on there, huh? There we go. Just like that. And that's what holds your axle shaft in. All right. Nice. Well, I guess let's do the same to the other side. Alrighty. So, another invaluable tool to have is a slide hammer. And what I do with these guys is you put this cone on there, put the 2-jaw on there, and you can tighten the cone to force these out so put maximum pressure on the inside of whatever you're planning to pull out. So let's do that. Well, I could try to pull the bearing out and see if that comes all together. Let's try that. Yeah, see, that usually doesn't work too well. What I found you usually have to do is take all the rollers out. Where'd my flashlight go? And then pull from the front of the cage. For some reason, they don't always like to play nice. Oh boy. Yeah, you're gonna play real mean, aren't you? Now usually once you get all the rollers out, you can get the inside lip of this bearing race, which is usually a bit tougher than the seal. We'll see if we can pull them both out. I'm hoping. Otherwise this might be a real bear. moved a little bit. Just gotta get past that seal. Wow. I broke part of the race off. What is your deal? I'm gonna have to heat this axle housing, I think. I apologize. I completely forgot to hit record for when I got the seal out. So what I did was I used these propane torches, 2 of them on each side to get it nice and hot. I'm out of oxygen in my acetylene torch right now, so I had to go the old school slow method. Just heated it up for about 2-3 minutes, nothing crazy, until I could get the seal out. I just took a regular pry bar, right like that, put it in there, and she came right out. Released what looks like probably a red Loctite style sealant. So now we should be able to get that inner race out. See, I already chunked part of it out there. Hopefully I can get this the rest of the way out. It's still kind of hot, so I should be able to get the rest of that inner race out. If you are having a problem with these, you can't get them out, and you're grabbing from inside behind where the rollers are, and it doesn't want to move, I've noticed that I usually can't get it out that way. Usually what that does is it almost spreads the casing out, and it doesn't allow the race to come out. It's almost like it swedges it out. So what I do is I'll rip the cage out, rip the rollers out like you saw earlier, and I'll grab inside the outside lip, and it usually comes right loose. So we'll see what happens. There we go. There she is. Axle housing doesn't look too shabby. It's a bit thin. I cannot believe that's how thin that housing is. Wow. I mean, there's a little bit of rust, but it's still just, that's tiny. Then again, I work on semi-trucks for a living, so I will do the other side. I'm not going to film that part because I don't think it's necessary. I'll get that done, and then we'll move on to the next step. Welcome back. It's Sunday. Oh, he doesn't like that. All right, I guess I'll put him down. Ugh. Day before Memorial Day. It's raining outside pretty hard, so I got all the stuff still inside. Can't really move it out to make space. So today I'm going to be just filming odds and ends, little updates as I go through, because it's very difficult to get good camera angles as we're doing this. I'm going to put the new wheel bearings in. I'm going to put the brakes together as far as I can without the axle shafts being in. I'm waiting on my seals this afternoon. They should be coming from O'Reilly's. Okay. I'm a stickler for cleanliness, so what I like to do when I'm getting ready to put the bearings in and clean the surfaces is shove a rag or something in there. Don't forget it's in there and shove it into the diff when you put the axle shaft in. Side note. But I shove a rag in there so I can clean in here with wire brush or some Scotch-Brite, and that will keep the debris from getting further down in the axle tube. Just a quick way to keep it at bay right here, and then when you're done, you pull the rag out, wipe just this area here, everything's clean. When you're putting these in, what I like to do is save the old bearing race. You take a little bit of looby-doob, a little bit in there, give it a little spread, So now obviously I don't want to just take a punch and smack the bearings and possibly damage the cage. And my seal drivers and bearing drivers are all at work because I didn't think to bring them back. So we'll use this guy. You notice the tone changed. It means it bottomed out. Still rolls nicely. All right, we're all set. Now I just need my seals so I can put my axle shafts in. Alrighty, got our seals. Well, I guess they decided to go cheap and not use sealant on the outside. Probably be fine, but I think what I'm going to do is use some anaerobic sealant where it rides here, or where it sits. What this stuff does is it dries in the absence of air for it, especially like really tight fits. You'll see it a lot in case halves on like some small equipment. A lot of diesel engines will use it on the flywheel housing. Very good stuff. So what you want to do is dry it off well. Make sure it's really nice and clean. Make sure your hands are decently clean for this as well, so you're not screwing with the integrity of the sealant. You don't need a lot. Just a very thin smear of it. There we go. Hold it up to there. Please stay. Grab a block of wood. Till it's flush. All right. Looks good to me. On to the other side. The sponsor of today's video is Bullsnot Products. Now, I went to Power Tour 2024 this year, and Derek from Bicycle Garage was making an appearance for a meet and greet. So I figured, why not? I'd love to meet the guy. Well, the line was an hour and a half long. So I had time to kill. So while I was in line, I happened to be standing right next to Van Brown, the CEO and founder of Bullsnot Products, who, as many of you probably know, Derek used his product in the Barracuda or the Barrapupa videos to get that awful stench out of the carpet that was full of raccoon poop. Now, I'd heard of Bullsnot Products before because, well, I work in trucking and he makes trucker products. They're very versatile, so it's not exclusive to trucking, but that's the main focus. Well, I got to know the guy. We had time to kill. Very nice, down-to-earth guy. Very knowledgeable, very hands-on with the product. He doesn't just contract it out. He is involved in every aspect of the product and down to the chemical composition of the product. So it means he cares about what he does and he knows what his products can do because he designed them. So as we're talking, he started explaining to me of all the 15 items that he offers currently, what they can do and what they're for. And I was pretty impressed because as a person that works 60 to 70 hours a week, typically, and in a field where everyone's working 70 to 80 hours a week, keeping all of your equipment clean and tidy, very difficult, especially when we deal with quicklime and concrete powder and fly ash and all sorts of chemicals, and it's easy for this stuff to become just caked with garbage. So who wants to detail their vehicle for 2 hours after an 80-hour week? Not this guy. However, if you have a product that makes it easy and is very effective, that's a little more of an incentive, don't you think? So here's all the products that he offers currently. You can go to the website, brownox.com, to see the full lineup. Today we're going to be focusing on their visible glass cleaner with rocket spray. Now this one kind of intrigued me. It's glass cleaner, right? Glass cleaner, glass cleaner. Windex, Rain-X, all that. Everyone's got their own form of glass cleaner. What's special about this one though is, especially for you truckers, wintertime, fuel station, waiting for 150 gallons of fuel to be pumped into your tanks. Who wants to be opening the hood and trying to not slip on the ice? First off, getting the hood open, okay? This is a Kenworth T800. This hood weighs 3 times as much as I do. So last thing I want to do is, in the cold and slippery ice, trying to open this thing, just to clean your windshield off. Enter visible rocket spray, up to 15-foot shot. You just stand back, spray, let it sit for about 15 seconds. I'm impatient. I guess we'll probably call that good enough. Run your wipers And now you've got a clean windshield. No safety hazards, no OSHA violations, no workman's comp, and you get to stay warm because how long did that take me? 35 seconds between getting out of a truck, spraying it, waiting, getting back in, turn on the wipers. I'm sold. For more information about their products that they offer, go to brownox.com and enter code BOWL20 for 20% off your order. Gonna clean up the mating surface or the seal surface of the axle shaft with some fine scuff pad. This stuff works wonders on rusted old sealing surfaces. Let's take it. We don't want all the nastiness in there. Be tearing up that brand new seal. Much better, much better. A little lube on the bearing. Make sure she's pre-lubed nicely. Obviously, make sure put some lube on your shaft, boys. Being careful not to hit the seal or damage it. There we go. All right, fun time to see if we can get these clips to go on the way I'd like them to. Ooh, did that just go right in? No way. Ha ha ha. There's one. All right, let's see if clip number 2 will play nice too. Nope. We're just gonna that was it. Very nice. Now we can lock our pinion shaft back in. Well, I don't have my super scraper here. I knew I should have gone online and got some super scrapers from Wartsky Repair. Maybe I'll do that this evening, because I got a set at work, but I don't have any at home. And now that I'm going to be making these videos at home, I should probably make sure I have some. Okay, differential's all cleaned up. We got new silicone on the cover. Torque spec is 33 foot-pounds. Yeah, you probably don't have to be too crazy about doing that, but I'm going to, just because that's just how I am. Caliper slides nicely. I like it. One thing to notice about these is it appears that they use the same backing plate, or not the same backing plate, but the same bracket that this bolts up to for the drum brakes. Because look at that ginormous gap for the dust shield. Like, what is that going to do? What good does it do with that much of a gap? I guess that was an afterthought. Calipers are mounted, rotors. Got our shocks hooked back up. I popped those off because it's a little bit easier to get to that lower caliper bolt with the shock off with a like a ratchet in there. I have not bled it yet because it doesn't really want to gravity bleed, so I'm going to have my mom probably help me tomorrow. We'll bleed it until it's completely flushed. I want no old fluid. It was black when I topped off the reservoir. So both sides are done. On to our fuel tank. We're going to try to beat the rain because, of course, it's coming back. Tired of it raining when it's the weekend. And nice weather while we're at work all day. Am I right? Tornado sirens now. Great. Was not expecting that to be a problem. Okay, well, we survived. So that was quite torrential. So now the garage is even more wet inside. I'm pretty pleased about that. But got my pump out, got my sender out. I'm going to take the vent valve out, or the vapor valve, I think it's called. Regardless, I'm gonna take that out and we'll move on back to inside and get all this stuff transferred over to the new tank. All right, we got our new fuel tank from late model restoration. I already cleaned out and transferred over the little skid plate protector in the bottom there. We'll start off with our vapor valve. Whenever I put grommets in, I like to spin them a couple times once they're in to make sure they're seated fully. And I'm a big fan of dielectric grease. Use it sparingly because you don't want to drop it in the fuel, but a little bit of dielectric grease is great because it doesn't really interact with much of anything. Doesn't swell seals, even if they're coolant or fuel style seals. This will really help this pop in and not break probably a 40-year-old piece of plastic and whatnot. So let's do a little bit on the taper. Just like that. I hope this works. Oh, look at that. It's a thing of beauty. Oh, I like that. Perfect. Well, let's see if we can get the sending unit to go on the way I'd like it to. All right, so I bought a new Quantum Fuel Systems, what is it? HFP 340 fuel pump for this thing. It's supposedly a pretty good pump. It's 255 liters per hour. I don't know if I really need to pump this high performance per se, but if I do any modifications in the future, I already got a pump that can handle it. It is going to return a significant amount more fuel though, seeing as how it's not going to be using it, so it might cause a little more heat in the fuel than I'd like, but I guess we'll find out. Comes with, looks like all the stuff that you need. New O-ring for the hanger assembly, hose, clamps, all sorts of fun stuff. How do those rotate like that? How did that happen? Oh, the sides come off. Did not realize that. We'll be right back. And we're back. That's kind of handy that comes off. I like that. That tasted great. All right. We got to see size comparison wise how much different that is. Oh, we got to redo up there too. Oh, well, that's not fun. Everything's a battle, huh? Well, it looks to be about the same height. Well, I'm going to regroup and see what I'm going to do about the wiring, because it comes with this connector, and looks like it's soldered there. So I got to figure out, am I going to resolder it? I don't really like the idea of just doing butt connectors in the fuel tank. So let me figure this out and we'll get back to it. All right, so what I decided I'm going to do is I am going to use butt connectors. Late Model Restorations luckily had a good video about how to do these. The hanger was different than my hanger, but I figured that part out. They do butt connect these, so I will do that, but I'm going to use the heat shrink ones. Hopefully I don't destroy these. Ooh, these guys are stiff. Yeesh. There is the finished product. We got to clean up the fittings a little bit there. That's pretty nasty looking. But yeah, there we are. All right, last but not least, the fuel pump. We got our filler neck grommet, pump, sending unit, vapor valve. We're all set for tomorrow. And tomorrow I will replace the fuel filter first underneath the car, and then get the fuel tank mounted. All right, we're calling it quits for tonight. It's getting dark outside. Luckily, it stopped raining. I gotta clean up my mess and call it an evening. See you then. Happy Memorial Day. It's Monday, the 27th of May. Back at it with the Fox body. We're getting ready to put the fuel tank back in. I had forgot to mention about putting your isolator pads on. I bought the kit that came with them. I just kind of matched the factory pattern. They don't look perfectly straight, but that's how it was from the factory. It worked for the last 39 years, so we'll let it go. I got new straps. Well, I opted for the ones without the hardware because they came with, it would come with these new pins and the new bolts, and it was like another $25. My original bolts were fine, and my little clips that go in the frame rail were fine. So what I did was I just took longer shoulder bolts that I got for $2 a piece and just cut them to the same length as the factory pins. Ended up costing me $4 instead of the extra $25. I mean, $25 isn't a whole lot of money, but why spend the extra money if I don't need to? Wow. Well, it's in. That was kind of a pain, but it's on. Well, put a little bit of fuel in the old girl. See if it holds fuel and pumps it. Thank you so much, EPA, for these awesome gas cans that spill more than the old ones did. The best thing ever. It's the best thing ever. So what the rest of us do anyways is pull the top off and put a funnel in it, because when the government gets involved, things are always better, right? All right, let's key it on a few times. Oh, I heard it. How many times I gotta prime it? I guess we'll see what happens. Huh. Uh-oh. Making noises, but let's take a look and see if there's any leaks at the filter. Nope, let's try down here. I know I hooked the wires up properly. I hope. Be a bad day for me. So, word to the wise, if you buy a Quantum Performance pump, don't wire it the same wire colors together because that's wrong. I had to switch the wires, the factory wires, because I wasn't about to pull the tank back down. And now, completely different. See what she does. Come on, baby. There we go. There we go. Woo, she's stinky. All right. Well, I bled the brakes. Thank you, Mom. I filled the rear differential. That was fun. You have to pull what looks to be like a harmonics dampener of sorts just to get to the fill plug, because of course they can't put one in the cover. That would be too easy. So it's in the front of the diff. So I'm going to put the wheels on now. I will probably do an oil change, and we'll take it for a test drive. Oh, I do also have to put the hatch latch on. There's no latch, so the hatch is flopping around. So we're on the tail end of this thing. Yes, I will torque them with a torque wrench. Right now I'm just running them on lightly with the impact before I set the car down. Well, luckily, hi Luke, what's up bud? I have the parts Mustang, and the key actually works in the hatch. So, I already removed the lock cylinder for it, pretty easy to get to. All you gotta do, there's a rivet right here. There's a rivet right there, see that? You drill it out and this whole plate comes out. It looks just like this. It goes up in there. It holds the lock cylinder, and you just pull the lock cylinder right up from the outside. So I'm just going to swap that out really quick. Since my electronic latch isn't working right now, I'm not too concerned about that, as long as I have some means to get in there. Because if I'm going on power tour, I'm going to have tons of tools and whatnot back here. I might even bring the dog, we'll see. But I need that to open. I'm not going to deal with having to crawl in through the front seats every time. Yeah, I like it. It's our maiden voyage. The Luke dog and I. Lucas, say hi. Just pulled out of the garage. We're gonna take it just around the block really quick and see how she does on the road. I'm not sure. We'll find out. Well, he's noisy as hell, but steering is tight, very tight. Some noise is going on up front. Oh, it's that disc brake backing plate again. All right, we're back at it. I kind of forgot to hit the record button when I was running it the other day, so we didn't see what happened after that. I drove it for a few minutes and it overheated very quickly and was blowing out of the overflow over here like crazy. So I have decided to start off with a thermostat and a water pump. I'm hoping it's not the cylinder head gasket or cylinder head or something, but I mean, it within 5 minutes was really hot and just boiling out. So I'm hoping it's just from no coolant flow, but I guess we're gonna have to see. So I'm draining the cooling system right now and we're gonna see what comes of it, I guess. I'm gonna start with taking the belts off and getting to our water pump and our thermostat housing, which is right here. We'll go from there. Love 80s cars with their mixture of metric and standard bolts. It's amazing. Take a look at that there timing belt, huh? All the cracks in there. Woo! The idler doesn't look so great either. And that, folks, is how you change a water pump, a thermostat housing, all in less than an hour. Usually I take my time, my sweet old time, and baby it and do every step as perfect as I can. I don't have the luxury for time right now, so we're gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna go fill it up with just some tap water. I'm supposed to use distilled. I don't have any, so put some tap water in it, run it, and see how screwed I am. I'll be right back. I had to use the old power stroke. Get her fired up. Running okay for now. Let's see if we get any water flow out of that. Keep an eye on that, will you? Well, Derek would be proud. Bicycle Garage Glasses outside of O'Reilly's. Our first successful test drive. I am beyond stoked, except for the fact that the clutch slips. Imagine that. So I just went in and ordered a clutch kit, 115 bucks. Not too shabby. And a timing belt because, well, if you saw the last video, it's not good. So gonna get that in hopefully this weekend, and then at the end of the following week we got a power tour coming up. So, well, she made her first official trip home. We got to work on it tomorrow at work. Got to put a clutch in it, definitely. Timing belt, that's nasty. Got to disconnect the battery because it kills overnight, but we're getting there. Welcome back to Funk's Garage, everybody. We are at my buddy David's place. He just built himself this wonderful shop, and he has every mechanic's friend's dream, a lift. And I'm not going to attempt to do a clutch in this car without a lift. It would be so nice just to be able to muscle that trans right out of there, put a clutch in it. We got power tour in a little over a week. I gotta get going on this thing. So I've been driving the last couple days. The clutch is toast. So we're gonna do a clutch, timing belt, and whatever odds and ends I find while I've got it up in the air and I can look closer than just laying on my back.
These are things that like,
I don't know. Those are the things of the past. They don't use those anymore. These are my vehicles anymore.
Those are little catalytic converters.
No, they're not.
we don't use
Those don't exist in my world. I know exactly what they
I
exist.
don't know what that is, but I'm gonna cut it out.
See, we got the spot for the thermactor system.
No, so towards air quality.
God, I don't know what you're talking about, like deleting and pulling shit off of vehicles, because I don't do that.
Sorry, Greta.
So is this an everyday driver for you?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
Jim,
40-year-old car.
he has, how many cars do you have currently? 4 or 5? Or 6?
5 or 6.
What do you have for current cars currently?
I have this. I have my 2015 Ford Fusion Hybrid. I have 2012 F-350 Super Duty. I've got a 2012 Ford Expedition EL. I've got a 1967 Ford Galaxy 500.
You have an issue.
Where?
Do I have anything else? Oh, I have a 1988 Mustang LX. That's it for now. Well, clutch is out. Then replace the pilot bearing. Probably not the rear main seal though. Yeah, she got hot. She's blued and you see you got heat checking. She was donezo, so we're gonna drop the flywheel off to Napa tomorrow, get machined. Put the new clutch in. Yeah, she's not. She's gone. She gone. Look at all the grooves in there. Alrighty, happy Sunday, folks. Got the clutch in, got the shifter back in and the center console back in. Sorry I couldn't film that part due to time constraints. We had to really get booking on it, and I didn't want to try to move the camera around and get this car ready to get off the lift. So we're trying to get that bad boy on the lift so my buddy can work on it. So right now it's early in the morning, so finishing up getting the car together so I can pull it around and do the timing belt without the lift since I won't need that. Right now we're cleaning up the shop a little bit. When you are using a friend's shop, do everybody a solid and clean up after yourself and be a good guest so they actually will allow you to come back and use their shop. That's the adult thing to do. Well, I was going to wait to do the timing belt till everybody got here to get his Jeep over here and I pull this out since I finished the clutch, but I don't think it'll be here for a while, so it doesn't look like it should take too long, so we're just gonna knock that out real quick. It's I can spin the idler pulley easily and it's really dry rotted, so let's get her out of here. Most older Fords, I know most of the small blocks, and man, anything that's probably pre-1990, and maybe even some after that, are 15/16ths on the crank. So it makes it really nice and easy to turn the engine over by hand. So we'll give that a shot and try to get these looks like this timing mark lined up here, just so I have some sort of reference point. I'm gonna end up probably marking the belt at one of the teeth, and then marking it down here as well at one of the teeth, the belt itself and the tooth, and then I can just count the teeth in between and the new belt and put it all on, and it should be in time. Luckily, this is not an interference motor, so I shouldn't have an issue with it. In case I do screw up, it won't bend a valve by smacking a valve into a piston. I could be wrong about the 15/16ths thing, but so far that's been my experience. If you don't have one of these, I highly recommend it. It's a 1/2-inch drive, really shallow impact. Great for stuff where you need a little more oomph than a 3/8, but you know, a typical 1/2-inch impact. I know this is electric, but still, decent size difference. Obviously this is more powerful, but this is pretty good. This drives the oil pump and the distributor, I believe. It is, I don't think it's a balance shaft, it might be, but I know it drives at least the distributor and the oil pump. This is really simple. I mean, there's nothing much to it. So let's see if we can find something to mark that with. Perfect, he's got a paint marker. that, huh? Woo! Look at that bad boy, huh? Not much life left there. Oh yeah, listen to that. Yeah. Get in there. Oh boy. Wow. That should work. All right, let's mark the new belt and get this thing on. Let's see how all this works now. Alrighty, got our timing belt on. Everything seems to have lined properly. So all I did was get the belt on, loosen both these bolts a little bit. That caused the spring tension to pop the tensioner out, put some good tension on there. I might have helped out a little bit, a little more with the pry bar gently, just to make sure she's already gonna compensate for the initial belt stretching that's gonna happen. Lock both the bolts down, 13 millimeter, 17 millimeter. Made sure all my marks stayed lined on my intermediate shaft, crank sprocket, and my cam sprocket. Now it's time just to put the crank pulley on, water pump pulley, put my belts on, and see if it's gonna blow up. And don't forget, when you put these kind of things together, this little washer is very important. So you want to go with the concave portion, with the tips of it facing out. The reason this is there is to make sure that the belt doesn't walk off the bottom of the crank. See how this belt, there's no lips here. So at the bottom of on the crank, this washer will keep these from walking out and onto this and then throwing it out of time. If you don't have this on there, this is smaller than the diameter of that sprocket. So that's gonna really screw with you. So make sure you use this. I know Subarus use it. Probably most cars that don't have a ridge on your sprockets are gonna have something like this somewhere. Do not forget it. I was also incorrect about the 15/16 on the sprocket, or on the crank pulley. It is that way for a lot of small block Fords, but this one was a 7/8, so of course it made a liar out of me. I am an idiot. I don't claim to be perfect, so just take that as you will. When in doubt, do it by hand. You'll thank yourself for not screwing up threads in something. Yeah, I said what I said. See, this bolt was starting to strip out. It pulled some of the threads when it was being taken out, and those threads were still caught inside, and it was starting to strip out, which would have been a really bad day. This is 9/16 fine thread. It's Sunday. I'm not going to find that tap anywhere. I don't have that tap at work because I broke mine, so I'm waiting for it to be warrantied. But luckily, I was able to stop in time, clean it up, and got to run in and out several times by hand. That could have been a really bad beginning to this day. But we got it. Well, it's cold outside and my heater controls are stuck on cold, so I got no heat right now. But successful first drive to work. I'll take it. Temps are finally staying normal, on the low side of normal, even though I did use a 192-degree thermostat. But I'll take it. Well, as much work as I put into it the last week, I've got a guy coming to pick this thing up. I drove it to work and back for about almost a week. Put a clutch in it over the weekend, drove it for today, and I just realized this is just not the vehicle for me for power tour. It's a lot of driving. I'm in Wisconsin, Illinois area, right by the border. It's just not the car for me. Fun little car, handles like a rail, but I think old Galaxy's she's gonna take the trip. Much comfier cruising on the highway. In my opinion, a much cooler car. So I will see you folks there in Galaxy. Little postscript update here. I had intended to film a lot more of driving the car, dynamic shots, pulling in, pulling away, highway driving shots, the stuff that really cool to see it all come together, all the work come together and to see it in action. I love to see those endings of the videos, and I just never got to that with this car. I was running really short on time, and I realized after driving the car for a couple of days that I just was not going to enjoy driving this car on a 2,100 mile road trip. I really wanted to enjoy my very first time at Power Tour. And this car had flat spots on all the tires. It had, catalytic converter was plugging up, so the carpet started smoking the last day right before I sold it. Everything inside rattled. All the weather stripping was worn out, so just the wind noise was immense. And I should have known better. I should have just gotten going on the Galaxy instead, which is what I ended up taking to Power Tour anyways, which was a phenomenal car to take to Power Tour. So that video will be coming up shortly here. Again, this is a learning process. As you saw, I'm learning a lot about the filming. I didn't think, as I initially started, to have the phone on landscape mode. So earlier in the video, you see it kind of switches back and forth from landscape to portrait. And I have a GoPro now, so that will make that a lot easier. The iPhone will be used to fill in where needed. So I do appreciate for those of you that hung in there and got to this part of the video. Thank you very much for watching. It will get better. I learned a lot from this. I've got certain people that are very talented in this going to be watching this and giving me some good pointers. I've got some really cool projects coming up. I've got some cool, not engine swaps, but conversions that I'm pretty excited about. I think you guys will probably like that too. I've been thinking about doing this for years, to a certain unnamed vehicle, which you will see in the future as that video unfolds. I want to do some pretty creative things, not just fixing up old cars that I find, which is awesome. I love watching those videos, but I like modification videos too, making something a little more your own, cool engine swaps, just, things you don't see every day, because that's what interests me. So those will be coming up. I thank you very much for your time and, get going on your projects. This is all this is about. This is just a outlet for me to kind of motivate me to get going on those projects I've had sitting around for years. I've always been bad about just procrastinating on projects, and I need to tie it together somehow. And so this is my outlet for doing so. So find what you can to motivate you to do this. It's difficult to do. It still is difficult for me working, full-time jobs, 60, 70 hours a week. But if you don't keep honing that skill and really investing time in that passion, it kind of gets away from you. And then you're going to look back and be like, man, I wish I had. So I don't regret doing any of the projects that I have done. So I will regret more not doing them than the ones that I have done. So thank you again, and we will see you next time. Stay classy.